Hello and welcome back to another video in this chapter's series. So in this chapter, I'm going to talk about the very boring topic of university. So in the last video, you may have just heard me talk about my rapid web design, launching that business. And for the 2 years in high school leading up to going to university, I almost took a bit of a gap year because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But the thing was to finish uni, well, majority of people, and pressures around to go to uni, get the degree. And so I studied multimedia and software development. So because I've always had this kind of like mixed modalities of left brain logic, so like the developer coding side of things, but then also right brain logical, creativity and emotional and empathy and things like that, that kind of more creativity side of things. Multimedia and software development was kind of like that nice happy medium where it wasn't all coding and it wasn't all creativity. And I really liked that because it gave me a good diversification of using different parts of my problem solving brain and being able to like make something look good but also code. However, once I got to university, I started realizing that the 2 years that I'd spent building my own business and kind of teaching myself how to be resourceful and get unstuck when I didn't know something, I kind of got to uni and had this moment of, oh, I know more about what's happening in web than what the professors and what people were teaching me were doing. Because, this is 2003, this would be 2004. And, the internet was fairly new. Not many people were talking about like HTML or, CSS coding or the web side of things. So we were learning like old school, C# kind of programming language and Java applets, building like Java applets, kind of think about like, when you used to go to like shops and they had like the cash register system, that would be like a Java applet. And I'd been like playing around with databases and programming language and like, PHP and Python and all those kind of things. Actually, maybe not Python, but PHP. And I was teaching myself how to like hack my way through coding and build certain things in this kind of web space. So like web applications was still a bit of a new thing. Now we have everything in the cloud and we have SaaS services, software as a service everywhere. But in the early 2000s, that was not kind of the systems. Like you would build closed databases, like the database sat on premises. And if you're lucky, you would back it up onto a disk and take that off site for protection and for backup. So it was a very different era. And I remember being in a lot of classes and not really enjoying what I was learning. And really, when I got to the end of my degree, I felt like I had taught myself more myself online, being resourceful, asking communities. Like back then it was very big on like going into like web forums. There was no Substack and there was no whatever the platforms are these days for like getting coder help and all that. But you would go to forums and you would ask for help, or you would jump onto like a message, like a chat, something with someone and kind of code together. And even that was quite rare because no one really trusted each other. It was very early days, and a lot of the talent that were doing things were overseas, and there was no YouTube. You couldn't just go and jump online and watch a YouTube video to kind of learn something. So that was my university experience, and I really enjoyed, the social aspect, the connecting with network, but I can't really say that my life, I was not studying to become a doctor or like something that was like highly litigated. So learning software development and graphic design, it was arguably like something I could have done myself, doing a couple of online modules. But anyway, that was the uni at the time. They moved really slow back then, and maybe they still do, I don't know. But it took years and years for curriculum to get updated and approved, and you very much had like middle-aged to older-aged people teaching you ways of developing and doing code and architecture that wasn't really ready was the wrong timing for me. You know, I was also in an era where coding became object orientated. So you would build an object or a class, and then you would be able to call that. You know, a lot of the coding that I got taught was, you know, it wasn't object oriented. So you weren't able to call on objects and classes. And now, you know, you can basically put a package in your code and there's a whole bunch of things that you don't even have to code anymore. And now you have AI that can literally vibe code something for you without having zero coding experience. And that's probably the thing that's dawning on me the most at the moment. I have been playing around with a couple of vibe coding platforms. One of my favorite ones at the moment, just because it's easy to use and it kind of gets the job done, is Base 44. I will link that somewhere around this video. It will be an affiliate link. There's a referral code, full disclaimer there. But yeah, Base 44 has been working really well in building web apps and also having super agents, and it's actually owned by Wix. So I'm playing around with tools just to get a feel for them. I'm not excited about building a business around AI, but I definitely think we're moving into an era where if you're not playing around with these tools, you're going to get left behind much quicker than if you didn't get a website and you didn't get social media. You know, and if you're not embracing AI, like, the speed in which you will get left behind is crazy. The point I'm trying to make there is that now that I know what I know about how AI is able to code stuff, there is zero use for my degree. Zero. Like, literally not needed. And I don't really know how I'm feeling about that as I say those words, but you know, they are stepping stones, you know, and I guess I wouldn't know that I wouldn't need it if I didn't have it. But yeah, it's quite interesting because I can literally open up a prompt window and ask an agent to build a full functioning kind of web application that solves a problem, and it uses so much common sense to get software created these days. And yes, it's vibe coding. Yes, you know, you have to kind of like trust it to some degree. It might, you know, I'm building apps that make my life easier. I'm not building, you know, apps to sell to the marketplace. But I really feel like we're moving into an era of just-in-time development. Just-in-time is a concept that came from the manufacturing world, where like you would order parts just in time. You wouldn't warehouse a whole bunch of stock just in case you needed it. You would get things delivered just in time. And so as long as one machine was 5 steps behind the other machine, you could always fill up the pieces, and you know, everything would just kind of fall in place just in time. And I'm starting to see that now with coding as well. Is that you know, you wake up one day and all of a sudden something changes in your business. Let's just say GST goes from 10% to 15%. You would be able to literally prompt that and go, GST just changed from 10% to 15%. Please update the back end in all places and do some testing and make sure that it's all correct, and it will do it. You won't have to wait for softwares to release updates and patches and fixes. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but exciting at the same time. Like, if you've ever had that itch to build some software or play around with it, and like Base 44 is like $20 a month to get started to play around with it. So it's a very low entry point. And it integrates with so many tools as well, and it's quite fun. It's quite fun to play around with it and just see what's available. And I guess that's like what I get excited about. Like, I played around with web development when web came out. I played around with social media when social media was coming out, and now I'm playing around with AI. And I like to be an early adopter and decide where I kind of sit in that landscape. So anyway, this video is about this chapter of university and like what it gave me. I don't think it gave me a lot. I never really feel like no one ever has asked me about my degree, to see the certificate, to see my enter scores, how I did at uni. I really feel like after your first couple of jobs, it's really about your experience rather than knowledge and your street smarts, I guess, instead of book smarts. And I'm not saying this is for everything. Like, of course, I would want my heart surgeon or my brain surgeon to not be street smart and to be book smart, you know. So I think application matters or context matters. But yeah, my university degree, I don't think really gave me a lot. And I'm also grateful that I did university in a time where degrees did not cost the price they do today. And so if I was going through university again recently and having a very large debt, I would be a little bit annoyed, I guess, or I'd be questioning, what to do in order to move forward as AI is kind of coming in to play. And yeah, a lot of that creative and logic is kind of getting replaced there. But that gives me hope that we are going to get more connected. We're going to move back to like the in real life movement, and that's kind of the signal that I'm seeing. I always say that I see signals early, and I'm seeing a trend, and I've got a trend feeling that people are going to move back to in real life or IRL experiences, like connecting in real life, dating in real life, going back to like, being connected to nature, community, the village. I'm seeing lots of people move into like eco villages, commune living, share homes, intentional communities, those kind of things where people feel more connected and feel part of a larger ecosystem. So those are all things that I'm seeing. People going on nature walks, wanting to spend time, within nature. So anyway, that is probably leading me to what businesses or business ventures I'm moving into. But for now, I just wanted to capture this university kind of era. I was doing university while still at KFC. So, there's a whole bunch of things: web design, KFC, university. I remember being like extremely busy and like going to class and then dashing to KFC, doing a shift and then getting home and then building some web stuff and finishing university projects at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is the norm on the last day. So that is that particular chapter. So if you're enjoying these chapter series, please follow along. Again, I'm only making these for myself to kind of have a bit of a reflective moment of the life that's been, as I kind of take this career pause and build some new stepping stones forward into what will become the new version, I guess, of my identity. And there's some really cool stuff that I've got planned for some video content coming up in the Becoming Ray series, but my first task is to capture all the past chapters. And so this is the university chapter. The next chapter is going to be me talking about the LED business, like importing energy efficient lighting business. It's kind of like my first my pull within to sustainability and kind of going green, which was such a trendy thing back then, and also a caravan business that was a bit of a quick sprint, and I'll go deeper into that in the next video. So subscribe and follow, and if the next video is out, it will be probably around this somewhere. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to these, and and if not, I'm making these for myself, so I'll thank myself for listening to these and making them. All right, take care. Talk to you soon.